Hey guys, welcome back to Inside the Storm. I'm your host Zane, and this is your weekly show on everything Newport Storm FC. We've got a super exciting show for you this week. We're going to be discussing the recent round 3 result, as well as a quick preview for round 4, as well as hearing from some of the really important figures around the club about their thoughts on the senior team so far. So let's get straight into it. Round 3 saw the senior team playing their first away game against Meadow Park, who was actually a side that the team faced last year in the semi-final of the State 5 Championship. And it was a very compelling game, definitely a really close game. Ended with a 3-2 loss for the team on their first away game, which obviously is unfortunate, but definitely a very compelling game, a really close game, a lot of chances. I think it was really a game of two halves, definitely to see from both sides that arguably, both teams had some really strong spells, but ultimately it was an unfortunate result. And moving forward, that is 2 losses in a row now, and the team is really eager to correct those mistakes from their previous games and bounce back really well in the next game. Looking back to the game, you had some really standout performances from the likes of Marcellus getting his first goal, and obviously Eunice as usual. A very good goal from him to bring it back in the 90th minute in a really strong fight back from the team. Clawing a deficit from 3-1 back to 3-2 and playing a really strong game despite the result. Obviously, there are going to be things to work on, and especially looking at the goal of the team to win. Obviously, dropping points is never part of the overall goal game by game, but over the course of a 22-game season, that can happen, and that's the point of the coaching staff and the senior leaders to get the team back on track, and I think that's definitely the plan looking forward. And overall, some really strong positives to take from that game, especially in individual performances and certain patterns of play. If you go through some of the highlights, you'd see some really good play. But just little pieces that the team is still working on in terms of cohesion and chemistry and adjusting to each other. On the reserve side, it was again a narrow loss as well, but an exceptionally good performance if you look at the chances created and the style of play. And so both teams are definitely progressing in the right direction with the early initial growing pains and adjusting to playing with a completely new set of players under new coaching staffs, and I think that has its own learning curve with it. But overall, definitely in a positive trajectory. We saw from the game and especially from the the look in from the coaching staff and hearing the sentiment at full time and even at half time, there were a lot of positives in how the team played and in the performance. And if you were to watch the VO, you'd see that. But just little gaps that definitely need to be addressed and adjusted before this team goes on to hopefully put on a very strong title charge. Looking forward to round 4, obviously back at home, which is a huge advantage. Going up against Kilo Wolves, who've had a very strong start to the season, undefeated in 3 games so far, tied second place. So definitely a team that if you want to win this league, you're going to have to compete against and beat. And definitely a team that's very experienced, a team that's been around this level for a long time, has a very strong squad, a very seasoned manager. So that'll definitely be a very tough test. That's probably arguably the biggest test of the season so far. And that will really test the title credentials of both squads. The early predictions from many around the season were that, these would be, the Storm and Wolves and Bendigo would be 3 of the strongest in the division and arguably fighting for the title. So for Newport to get a title race back on track and get that momentum back up, this would be a huge victory if it were to happen, and especially it would be a big shift in the narrative that this isn't just a young team with a lot of promise, but instead a team that really can compete at the highest level against some of the favorites of the league. So definitely it's a game that I think the coaching staff has circled and has looked at as a tough test, but by all accounts, the expectation going into the game is to win and to be extremely competitive and bounce back and really get that momentum underway again. Because 1 or 2 positive results and all of a sudden, the title credentials are completely back on track, and And Bendigo, who hasn't dropped a game yet, is looking at the rest of the table, thinking who their biggest competitors are, and obviously the goal of Newport is to win this league, as we've heard from the coaches before. So it would be a huge game to get that under track and see exactly how good this team can be against some really tough opposition, with the added momentum that they have gone 2 games now without getting a win, and that turnaround would be a huge shift in the confidence of the team and the momentum of the team going into the rest of the season. Being able to beat a top 2 team at home all of a sudden would really invigorate the boys in terms of being able to compete every single game and dominate every single game. So the expectation is definitely to go in and win and compete and try get a result and turn around a small patch of bad form, because a season's long. Over 22 weeks, you're going to have times where form is in and out, and if that happens earlier in the season, that's even better. And that's lessons that are learned far earlier, when the title race isn't as decided and decisive as it will become later on. So definitely, by all accounts, the goal is to get back on track and to get the whole squad together and realize the importance of this game and just how big it can be if the team is to go on and win the title. Then it would arguably start by beating Keilor Wolves here. Another big piece of news, obviously, is the Junior Gala Day, which happened just a few days ago on the Sunday, with the imminent junior season beginning this coming Sunday. So really exciting for our junior teams to all be back in action. Obviously, there's about 15 junior teams this season, all competing at different levels and under different age groups. So really exciting for the club to be competing again. Obviously, last year tasted some success in the Keilor Cup and in Shepparton. So it would be really nice to go on and kick on strong. We got a chance to speak to a couple of the people at the at Gala Day around the senior team and to give their thoughts on the senior team so far. So here, have a listen to that.
Seniors are doing really well. It's a very difficult competition that we're in, so it's going to take some time to adjust. It's going to take them some time to get used to each other and used to playing together. So it's a work in progress, but they've got a great spirit, some great leadership in the squad, great coaching leadership, and the support of the club. So, it's going to be a tough start. We knew it was going to be a tough season, but it's a long season. So they have time to progress, learn, adapt, and get better. And we're confident that they will.
Look, we have a lot of expectations on the senior team. They had a really big year last year, and we're hoping the same to follow. It's a great coaching team, a lot of support, and we're right behind them.
To have a coach from Western United and of the calibre of Rex's quality is a gift. It's a real opportunity for a club like this. It's just an absolutely fantastic appointment to have a coach of that calibre in State 5, and he's a proper coach. So to have that at this level, and I've heard that the guys are adapting really well to Rex. It's really good. It's exciting to work with someone, have someone like that in the club to work with. Really top coaches that coach really well. It's great for the club.
Really interesting to hear some words from the committee and President Ziggy, of course, on the senior team. This week, the team is back in action, as previously mentioned, against Keilor Wolves at home. Another home game, so a usual 12:30 p.m. kickoff for the reserves and 3 p.m. for the seniors. Come down to the ground. There'll be a really good atmosphere. We've got good weather on, so it'll be a very fun day out. And we'll see you there. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you soon. Take care.